Let's talk about a particular continent. This continent has the most countries among all continents, yet not a single one is considered an advanced nation by international organizations like the UN or IMF. Additionally, none of its countries are members of the OECD. About 40% of its total population lives in poverty and slums, with nearly 200 million children facing water scarcity, and an average life expectancy of around 50 years. And this continent is Africa. Africa possesses significant resources, holding 10% of the world's oil reserves, and 8% of its natural gas reserves. It also accounts for half of the world's diamond production, making it resource-rich. However, despite all the resources they have, Africa stands out as the poorest continent, with 18 out of the world's 20 countries, with the lowest GDP per capita as of 2020. This raises an important question: why does a continent with such immense potential continue to struggle with poverty? In the past, Africa was not always in this state of poverty and weakness. It is known as the birthplace of humanity, and has been home to some of the oldest civilizations in history, including ancient Egypt. In the 10th century, the Kingdom of Axum in East Africa thrived through trade, and even boasted a navy, earning recognition as one of the four great powers of the 3rd century, alongside Persia, Rome, and China. Similarly, in the late 14th century, the Mali Empire was known for its schools and libraries. Mali was one of the richest kingdoms of Africa, and Mansa Musa, the ruler of the Kingdom of Mali, was among the richest individuals in the world. Despite this rich historical background, Africa now finds itself in a contrasting situation, where half of the population south of the Sahara lives on less than $1 a day. What are the reasons behind this shift? There are several factors, but today we will focus on the key ones as we explore together. So, let's begin. First, some characteristics of the African continent contribute to its challenges. One significant issue is the geological composition of the land itself, making agriculture a daunting task. Agriculture plays a crucial role in a country's development, as it provides the majority of our food, and is vital for progress. However, Africa faces significant obstacles in agriculture due to its long history of soil formation. Unlike the temperate regions of Europe, where fertile soil formed relatively recently during the ice ages, African soils are much older. Some inland soils in Africa were formed during the Mesozoic era, an astonishing 200 million years ago, and over such an extensive period, the nutrients in the soil have eroded, making the soil infertile, especially in tropical regions. As a result, African farmers resort to slash and burn agriculture, burning forests to use the ashes as fertilizer. Unfortunately, this practice leads to deforestation, exacerbating the arid conditions in Africa. Moreover, Africa's predominant location in tropical regions further complicates matters. Around 90% of Africa has a tropical climate, which creates a hot and humid environment, ideal for the spread of infectious diseases. Consequently, Africa suffers from various deadly diseases, like AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. In 2020, Africa accounted for 95% of malaria infections and deaths, with approximately 240 million cases. These widespread infectious diseases hinder governmental functions and hinder progress. In addition to these challenges, Africa is also impacted by global warming, intensifying droughts, and making agriculture and livestock rearing even more difficult. This exacerbates the scarcity of water and accelerates the process of desertification, which is already underway. The warmer weather also contributes to the proliferation of various diseases. These things have ultimately resulted in food shortages in Africa, posing a significant obstacle to economic development. The solution to such unfavorable conditions lies in African nations uniting and striving for progress together. However, achieving unity in Africa is a complex challenge, because the persistent conflicts between different tribes and ethnic groups within African countries hinder this unity. For instance, Nigeria, with a population of 200 million, consists of over 250 different tribes, leading to frequent conflicts, costing millions of people's lives. Similarly, between 1959 and 1996, Rwanda and Burundi in Africa witnessed a conflict between the majority Hutu ethnic group and the minority Tutsi ethnic group. Throughout these decades, the conflict led to devastating massacres, diseases, and famine, resulting in millions of deaths, and the root cause of all can be traced back to the imperialistic behaviors of European powers in the 19th century. During this period, European colonial powers sought to extensively exploit Africa for their own development, leading to the colonization of the continent. Britain, France, Belgium, Germany, Portugal, and others participated in this colonization. But, as they rapidly colonized Africa, concerns arose about potential conflicts between European nations over the shared meal that Africa represented. The competition among Western powers for Africa became so intense that they even engaged in open conflicts and wars among themselves, including the Boer War, which then led to the Berlin Conference in 1884. and this played a significant role in settling this fierce competition. In the end, France and Britain claimed the largest shares of Africa at 35.6% and 29%, respectively, while Portugal, Belgium, and Germany each took around 7%. The borders drawn during this period, aiming for a fair division of land, have now become the borders of many African countries today, and these seemingly straight and even borders on the map are a result of this division. However, these borders were drawn without much consideration for the ethnic groups and cultures living in the region, leading to the challenges we witness today. The lack of consideration for ethnicities and cultures resulted in situations like the conflicts in Nigeria, Rwanda, and Burundi mentioned earlier. Another notable instance is Sudan, which was once a British colony. During this period, Sudan experienced a civil war, fueled by racial and religious conflicts, resulting in nearly 2 million deaths over a span of 2 years. The root cause of this conflict can be traced back to the 19th century, when Britain split Sudan along the north-south line and treated it as if it were two separate countries. However, as time went on, Britain changed its stance. In 1948, they came to the conclusion that southern Sudan could not sustain itself and would face difficulties in achieving independence, so they decided to reunite Sudan, retracting their policy of separation. However, a problem rose when the North and South, having lived independently for many decades, were abruptly reunited, leading to tremendous conflict. This sparked the beginning of a civil war after Sudan gained independence, and southern Sudan endured immense sacrifices before eventually achieving separation and independence again in 2011. Had they been allowed to remain separate entities as North and South from the outset, without British intervention and alterations, countless lives could have probably been spared. There were other instances where the dominance of Western powers acted as a catalyst. For instance, in Rwanda, which was under Belgian rule, the Rwandan genocide resulted in 800,000 deaths. Similarly, Angola, ruled by Portugal, witnessed a similar death toll due to the Angolan Civil War. The colonial rule and the arbitrary drawing of borders by Western powers caused immense loss of life in Africa. European involvement has significantly contributed to Africa's poverty. However, Europeans are not solely responsible for the situation. African leaders, particularly corrupt dictators, have also played a crucial role in perpetuating poverty. Many African countries have been ruled by dictators due to frequent coup and instability. Mobutu Sese Seko of Democratic Republic of Congo, Hosni Mubarak of Egypt, Omar Bongo of Gabon, Idi Amin of Uganda, Mengistu Haile Mariam of Ethiopia, and Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe are prominent examples of such leaders. These dictators engaged in unimaginable corruption, with General Sani Abacha of Nigeria embezzling over $1 billion, and President Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire embezzling $3.4 million into Swiss bank accounts. Idi Amin, in particular, stands out as the epitome of corruption, using 50% of the government budget for personal gain. These dictators also wasted public funds on extravagant expenses, such as Emperor Jean Bedel Bokassa of the Central African Republic, spending $20 million on his coronation ceremony. The ruling elite treated the national treasury as their personal piggy bank, leaving little for the country's development. Consequently, countries like Zimbabwe, once prosperous, declined into failed states under Mugabe's rule. Many people wonder why Africa remains underdeveloped, despite receiving significant foreign aid. The answer probably lies in corrupt dictators misappropriating foreign aid funds. For instance, in 2011, Mali's officials embezzled $560,000 in AIDS relief aid, and in Zambia, high-ranking officials were caught embezzling foreign aid supported by Europe, leading to aid suspension. It has been suggested that cultural factors, particularly Africa's culture of communal support, played a significant role in corruption in Africa. Traditionally, African tribes and societies placed great importance on collective responsibility for supporting the extended family. As a result, if an individual within the extended family achieved success, it was considered customary to use their wealth to benefit the entire extended family. Unfortunately, this cultural norm extended even to high-ranking politicians without exceptions. Consequently, when politicians attained positions of power, favoritism towards their families and local communities became prevalent. This environment fostered a culture of bribery, and those in power took advantage of this system to serve their interests. As a consequence, many African nations prioritize personal connections over individual capabilities, leading to the neglect of genuinely skilled individuals, contributing to a brain drain as they seek opportunities abroad. Addressing Africa's poverty is a complex challenge, with multiple factors at play. Despite its immense potential, the continent's current state is disheartening. Swift resolution of these issues is essential for Africa to experience true development that matches its potential. Alright, if you enjoyed this content, please make sure to hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. Your support would truly make my day. If you are still taking a dump, Here are more videos for you. Thank you for your time.